I'm Charlie Brooker and you're watching Weekly Wipe, a programme all about things that are happening. Things like this. The Tory party has been split over gay marriage. Conservative elders say it flies in the face of the traditional Tory position that marriage should be between a philanderer and a doormat. Incredible facial reconstruction technique reveals Richard III resembled amateur waxwork of Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen. In distressing scenes, the news captured a knife-wielding man being tasered outside Buckingham Palace. The only man more shocked than him was eyewitness Ian Hislop.
And then one couple met behind him and tased him. He fell on the ground within a couple of seconds and he got taken away in the police van.
And Edward D. Eagle Edwards wins Gaudy Celebrity Dunking Festival Splashed. He fought off tough competition from Linda Barker's revealing plunge and Jake Benidorm's amazing twitching tits. Eagle's victory proves once and for all that even our fittest celebrities are no match for our shittest Olympian. That's precisely the sort of thing that's been going on, but we start here. For many years, numbers were our friends, appearing on the shirts of national heroes, making us laugh on calculators, and starring in cheerful and hypnotic animations aimed at babies.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
But it turns out this was a front, and now we know the ugly truth. Numbers may look jolly, but in reality, they're bastards. Recently, the Office of National Statistics proved they are by releasing a set of grim economic numbers.
Gross domestic product fell by 0.3% in the fourth quarter of 2012.
So grim, they effectively silenced every journalist in the room.
Any more questions? There must be some.
Numbers have now knackered the country so comprehensively, the only businesses doing a roaring trade are shutter manufacturers, window board salesmen and sad graph designers. In fact, the sad graph industry is booming. There are basic graphs, nostalgic graphs, and graphs with the sort of interactive Chancellor head on them for you to fire light guns at. If you can afford a light gun, which you can't, thanks to him. Everything costs more these days. Petrol's so expensive you'd think it was some kind of precious resource mined dangerously from the sea, and the prices are always rising.
They go up quick enough, but they never ever come down. Well, if they do, yeah, a month later.
Yeah, never, ever, or a month later. They're not even consistent in never coming back down. That's what devious shits these prices are. But numbers don't really convey the human cost, which is why reporters are keen to hear tales of personal, number-induced misery. Newsnight rounded up plenty of totally representative people to find out what they think.
Does it feel like we're in a double or triple-dip recession?
It does, yeah.
Do you think things will pick up?
And what about you?
I feel the same, really. There's just no spare money anywhere. Every bit of money you get goes on bills, electric.
Elephant suits.
And what do you do?
I'm a builder by trade.
Indian or African builder? In an attempt to convey the misery of the number-tastrophe, Sky invited a range of small business folk on air to share their tragic experiences.
Well, one of the stories behind the numbers situation is keenly felt by businesses up and down the country.
Oh, good, this will be sad.
Tell us a little bit briefly about your business and how it's coping right now.
We're coping pretty well. We're on the high street and the internet, and we're doing pretty well, actually.
Oh, shit, sorry, they must have asked you by mistake. Try someone else.
Tell us a bit about your business and how you're faring right now.
Actually, last year we probably had one of the best years we've ever had.
Yeah, but apart from that, how bad is it?
Out of the last 6 months of the year, 5 months of those were best ever months.
All right, show off. Let's ask the other bloke.
I would concur with the previous comments. We've actually seen a good upturn in 2012 and our revenues were increased.
Oh, for f***'s sake. OK, try interviewing a sort of hotelier, restaurateur type who looks a bit like a prototype David Mitchell.
David, welcome to you. How's business?
It's been amazingly good, actually.
Oh, everyone's a winner, aren't they? Tell us more.
We're doing very well. Growth last year on the bedroom element.
Growth on the bedroom element? You do realise Embarrassing Bodies is next door. Yes, there's no denying it's been tough on the high street recently, which is why it's curious that against this backdrop of high street shoppicide, ITV have decided to offer viewers some outlandish escapism with a series set in a fantasy world where people actually open shops. Mr Selfridge is effectively Downton Abbey with a stockroom, shot in HD and given a thick layer of creosote. It tells the slightly embellished story of Mr Harry Selfridge, a born showman and irritant who somehow managed to create one of London's foremost department stores despite consisting of hardly anything but a beard and some teeth. I don't know why they chose Harry Selfridge over Bob Comet or Dick Debenhams, but presumably Selfridge's The Shop is delighted because it gets name-checked every other nanosecond.
Mr. Selfridge.
Mr Selfridge.
Yes, Mr. Selfridge.
Good morning, Mr. Selfridge.
The Selfridgian exterior has been faithfully reproduced, presumably with CGI and some string, although most of the interior action is confined to one floor, which the cast perpetually stride through in a transparent bid to make discussion of stock levels seem dramatic. Still, we might only ever see one floor, but Selfridges does clearly have a massive cheese department in the form of Jeremy Piven. His Mr. Selfridge is no mere Barrow boy, more of a Barrow man, specifically John Barrow man.
We need to put on a show.
He performs the role with all the subtlety of a pantomime dame desperately trying to attract attention from the window of a burning building. Equally unsubtle is some of the dialogue, such as this exchange between Mr. Selfridge and a good-as-gold plebby shop girl he's taken under his wing.
You love it, don't you? The customers, the selling, the feeling of merchandise underneath your hands.
I love it more than anything.
It's hard to tell the other shop girls apart, partly because they're always either whispering or tittering in the corner like church mice in a Disney cartoon, and partly because they're styled like they've gone to a fancy dress wake as a cottage loaf. Everywhere you look, it's Princess Anne in mourning. Seriously, sometimes there are so many Princess Annes on screen at once, even they can't tell if they're looking in a mirror. But the main problem is that because it's based on a real shop opened by a real man, there's not much real jeopardy. So the opening episode was a nail-biting tale of will he or won't he open the shop, when you know he did. Then we had will he or won't he open a perfume counter, which you also know he did. And recently we had is he or isn't he dead, when you know he won't be. It's a bit like a whodunit called Colin is Guilty. Still, while Mr. Selfridge ingests scenery on ITV, the BBC is shoving viewers' faces headfirst into the grisly world of Ripper Street, a sort of CSI Whitechapel with nods to Sherlock and Deadwood, set in Victorian London, a time when men were men, except when they looked a bit like owls. It stars Matthew McFadden as a sad-eyed proto-copper struggling with personal grief and a silly hat. Jerome off Robson and Jerome, looking a bit like a ship's figurehead that's been smashed repeatedly into a dock. And an American as a sort of pathologist cum corpse connoisseur who examines the bodies in the manner of an expert on Antiques Roadshow.
You see this moon-like impression in the clavicle. Her fingers, worn and puckered by strings, and her hair. There are heavy deposits in it. Soot.
And without that soot damage, she would have been worth as much as £3,000. Seriously, loads of people die in this. It's like Victorians had the life expectancy of a Cocoa Pop. And since it comes off the back of Call the Midwife, it's as if BBC One has decided Sunday night is women screaming helplessly night.
Oh, Call the Midwife was brilliant. It was this drama thing about these sort of schoolgirls who worked for these mad nuns about 100 years ago. And their job was to go into poor people's houses and do these exorcisms on pregnant women. It's exciting because you see them pulling babies out of women and meeting all these really horrible men.
Said it to her, and I'll say it to you. You clear out of my home, or I'll burn her, and I'll burn her again.
That's enough!
Those bits are sad, but then they meet all these really nice babies, which is happy.
The babies are really good actors. God knows how they read the script. They must have had to stick it on a mobile for them or something, and then wait ages for it to spin round for the right bit for the baby to learn what to do, like, oh, I've got to lift my arm up at that point, you know, and all that. People have said it's rose tinted, but it isn't. It's sort of green. And sometimes it's really green, and then sometimes it's brown, and sometimes it's sort of green and brown, but it isn't pink because it's on early, so they can't show those bits.
Good old-fashioned British televised healthcare there, but what's American televised healthcare like? Let's ask an American, namely drunk comic Doug Stanhope.
I'm Doug Stanhope, and that's why I drink.
As I'm sure you're aware, we don't have a national health service here in America like you do. We either have to pay for it or we have to suck it up.
Fucking UK, they have nationalized health care. We have 300 channels of cable and TV doctors. You have to get the best you can do.
Yeah, we're chock full of TV doctors, doling out all the free advice you're willing to swallow. Have you heard of Dr. Phil? He's an Oprah Winfrey protege. The other day, we saw he had a 800-pound guy that had made a YouTube video of himself.
I'm just trying to get some help. Nutritionist, personal trainer, Dr. Phil.
Please help me, Dr. Phil, because I can't get out of my bed. So Dr. Phil, being a great doctor and all, he sends an ambulance directly to this poor fat prick's house, and they tow his bed into an oversized industrial ambulance, and they drive him directly to the studios.
As any medical professional would do.
Do you really believe that you can have a normal life and a normal body and a normal health?
Yeah.
When they run out of obvious advice, like plug up your top hole, fatty, you're eating too much, then they have to move into junk science. Now we just start inventing diseases. What, you're a hoarder? Oh, wait, that's not a habit, that is obsessive compulsive disorder.
And we have an expert here that can help you with it if you allow them to exploit you on TV for an hour. I watch Hoarders and I see shit I need.
Then we have the cottage industry of rehab television. You have Dr. Drew, and you have Addicted, and you have Cracking Addiction. Intervention is my favorite. Intervention is a show that's 58 minutes long of complete exploitation. It's just watching some poor prick stumble through his life and get fired from his job, and he's shooting up in a bus toilet, and now he's puking in a trash can and shitting his pants. That's the first 55 minutes, and then they cut to the intervention, and that's just the sad family sitting around reading these sappy letters that they wrote, like Hallmark greeting cards. This is the ways you've ruined my life, Bruce. You didn't show up for Sheila's bar mitzvah. Wah.
And then they whisk them off to rehab, where you go, okay, now this is where it's helpful. It's going to show us how they rehabilitate these people. Nope, that's the end of the show. Graphic at the end. Bruce hasn't drank since July 21st, 2009. Well, what'd you do in the rehab? If you're trying to help people, you might want to tell us what the fucking cure is. You skipped over that part entirely.
I'm just saying that if you're gonna get your medical advice from a TV doctor, you might as well just get the advice from Dr. Dre or Dr. Seuss, because at least that way the bad advice you get will rhyme.
Transport, and as the news excitedly showed, Prince Charles celebrates 150 years of cramped subterranean hell by using the London Underground. As far as Charles is concerned, an Oyster card is a credit card someone else uses to buy you oysters. So little wonder he approached it all like a virgin.
Here's how you do it. Push your thingy up against the little round nubbin and the flaps open, there you go, and ease yourself in all the way. Good-o.
Not that it was his first time. As ITN nostalgically explained, the last time Charles used the Underground was during a pleb spotting trip in 1979, whereas the last time Camilla braved the tube was their wedding night. They didn't go all the way. In fact, Charles only lasted 2 minutes before popping off. Well, it's understandable, really. Poor bloke hasn't been inside a tunnel for 34 years.